It's now been well over a week since we were promised that Congress is going to be looking into these claims that have been made recently about UFOs and extraterrestrials and government programs developing advanced weapons. And yet nothing appears to have been scheduled yet, and so people are left wondering, what is there to these claims that have been made? If you haven't been following this, we're going to catch you up. There's a whistleblower, David Charles Grush, who has a lot of experience in this area. Aerial objects, extraterrestrial objects, and he's revealed quite a bit. He is a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, as well as the National Reconnaissance Office. He served as the Reconnaissance Office's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. From late 21 to July 2022, he was the NGA's co-lead for UAP, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. That's what they're now calling UFOs, or that's what fancy people in ties are calling them. And a representative to the task force. So has a background in this area, and here are the claims that he has made. He said that recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades through to the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. He says that we believe that they are extraterrestrial because of exotic origin materials, meta-analysis of blah, blah, sciencey stuff. Now, Grush said that he reported to Congress on the existence of a decades-long, quote, publicly unknown Cold War for recovered and exploited physical material, a competition with near-peer adversaries over the years to identify UAP crashes and landings and retrieve the material for exploitation, reverse engineering to garner asymmetric national defense advantages, which are my favorite type of national defense advantages. Anyway, he says that this program has been illegally shielded from proper congressional oversight and that he's been targeted and harassed because of his investigation. There has been some write-up of this, but as we have talked about over the past week or two since the initial claims have been made, not a ton of really high-level national discussion about it. And there are theoretically reasons for that. This person has a lot of experience, Grush, in this area. And there are other high-profile individuals from the military and from intelligence agencies that have vouched for his experience and integrity. But there are issues in terms of what evidence has been presented. I mean, effectively, no specific evidence has been presented. But even to what extent there's second or third hand evidence is still very much in the air. So to go back to the intro, would love to find out when Congress is gonna do these investigations. They said they're going to. We've got some updates, but what do you both make of this?
Okay, bloop, 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 they're here. It's over, everybody panic. Okay, no, you don't have to panic. And I'll explain why in a second. Aliens are more likely to be friendly than you think. So that is just my theory, okay? So that's a fun one.
They look friendly
look
from
at
the footage.
Yeah, I mean, geez. Okay, so that is not real footage. We just want to be clear, okay? So now look, guys, there's one giant problem here in the evidence, and then I'm going to tell you a number of things that make me think, no, they're definitely here, and then let's talk about what the implications of that are. So the giant problem is no one yet in the public has gotten the secret evidence, right? There's no pictures, there's no video of the craft that Grush or anyone else is talking about, or this potentially several different alien craft that we have apparently captured along with other governments, right? And it is a bit shocking that between the US government and other governments that no pictures or video have leaked. Now here comes a giant but. Well, on the other hand, this guy's leaking, right? He doesn't have the pictures of the video, but he is telling you, no, I definitely saw it. And everybody that the reporters talk to swear up and down that he's credible, and the people he's attached to are very credible, storied record in terms of his service to the country, et cetera, et cetera. So imagine these are not like loons, and there are loons in the government, right? There are MAGA and right-wing guys who believe anything. Okay. So we have no evidence that this guy is anywhere near that, just to be clear.
Yeah, no, we definitely don't. And I'm only pointing this out because it seems to be abundantly clear. To be clear, he is not saying that he has seen the craft or the aliens.
Yep.
He is saying that they do exist, and that they do exist, and there are photos and video, but he also has not seen the photos of the video. Yeah. So he hasn't even seen the evidence of the real object.
Well, he just saw it right here on the Young Turks next to you. So there you go, worldwide exclusive.
I missed it because I was looking at you.
Well, oh well, too bad. Too
Just
late.
like Bigfoot. You look away for a second.
Okay, now all kidding aside, so that's an important reservation. But remember, it's not like there isn't any video. We've all seen the videos of the unidentified flying objects that are flying way faster and in a way that no human craft that we know of can possibly fly. And that's not conspiracy, that's out in the open. Those videos have come out from the US government before, and Congress is having hearings. Barack Obama says something. Okay, now he's not very clear about something, but he's heavily hinted at it, right? So when you put all this together, and the most important factor here is without any of that evidence, there's already logic. When you add this stuff in, it makes the logic kind of unassailable. Now, any scientist will tell you it is a near statistic impossibility for humans to be the only life forms, or all the life forms on planet Earth being the only life forms in the universe. That's near impossible. So, and none of them are smarter than we are? We're a bunch of knuckleheads. We barely came out of the womb, right? And we're all like, ooga, ooga, if I see alien, I smash it, oh yeah, right? So I imagine in the billions of years that the universe has existed, other life forms have come about on other planets, and they have advanced further than we have, and hence can do the kind of space travel that would have them come here. That's the logic already. Now when you add in the extra evidence, it seems like it would be very surprising if all of these people were making it up and that there were no aircraft that anyone had ever recovered. And I'm gonna add one last thing to it. Look, there's tons of conspiracy theories that go around, and just because a lot of people say it doesn't mean a damn thing, okay? Or doesn't necessarily mean a damn thing. On the other hand, people saying that they saw UFOs, etc., for time immemorial, kind of does feel a little bit like black people saying, we got beat up by cops, time immemorial, and no one ever believes them, right? And then one day you go, wait, what if they were all just telling the truth, right? And no one ever believed them because like, oh yeah, the chances there'd be a UFO. I mean, somebody could be more advanced than us apes down here. Can you imagine, right? Yeah, I could definitely imagine. So I think we're almost there. I'm gonna tell you why you don't have to worry, but Ramesh is smarter than both of us. So what do you think?
Well, definitely on the topic of aliens, I don't claim to be any sort of expert at all. But then just sort of checking out the graphics and reading the story, it made me think of that movie, that spoof on Independence Day by Tim Burton, Mars Attacks. Do y'all remember that movie?
Yep.
That was just hilarious, right? So I think though, any level of humility or understanding of the nature of the cosmos, and I grew up watching Carl Sagan, would incline one to recognize that there must be many other forms of life that exist in this universe because we're so infinitesimal. I remember that word, infinitesimal. And so that sense of humility, that there are probably many other types of non-carbon based life that exist around, throughout the universe, I think is an important sort of recognition in a way that can actually maybe move us human beings out of our anthropocentric mindset toward recognizing something far larger than ourselves. But in the meantime, I think there are some real turf wars being connected to questions of space. First of all, the privatization of space, right? We see drone operators and the militarization of space, right? Space Force, other kinds of ventures, right? So space, traditionally for many cultures around the world, including here in Mexico, the Nahuatl communities I'm going to visit tomorrow, is seen as a commons, right? Space is like related to our beliefs, who we are of space, we are stardust, right? In that sense. But instead, we can actually see political and economic forces looking for new terrain to control and extract value out of. And that we see from the privatization and so on of space. So I think just the story itself is important in the sense that it can humble us all, but I think we also need to look at who is or is not included in our ventures in space, and also recognize, as Black peoples have been telling us for many years, from Gil Scott-Heron to more recently A Tribe Called Quest, two of my favorite musicians, Black people aren't really part of the space discussion. We're stuck here, as they say, or Whitey on the moon, to quote Gil Scott-Heron right there.
Can I give you a little bit more updates?
Yeah, including the dead body of the alien. All right, hold on. We have that coming up. Go ahead, John.
Well, it turns out that in this story, the dead bodies are not only aliens, they're humans as well. So
Dun, dun, dun.
I want to give you just a few of the additions that were made by Grush in an interview with News Nation. So he stated that the vehicles were, quote, not necessarily extraterrestrial, but by that he does not mean that they necessarily were just from Earth. He believes that they might have come from another dimension, stating, quote, as somebody who studied physics, where maybe they're coming from a different physical dimension as described in quantum mechanics. Also possible, it's outside of my level of knowledge about any of that, although I have watched a lot of Star Trek. But he also hinted that some of the alien beings were malevolent and had even killed humans. He implied that there was some kind of secret agreement between the government and aliens and that people had been murdered to protect the secret. So look, all of that is based on what we know about Earth governments, plausible. They would definitely do a deal behind our backs for their own personal gain or whatever, and they would definitely kill people to cover up. I have no doubt about that. It just does really seem like it is a very long time horizon for, like, nobody from any of these governments came out with like undeniable evidence or anything. You have these like trading back and forth of power in the United States government. I know that we understand that there's not necessarily a huge distinction between some of those governments, even when the party switches. But also there's the question of motivation. So if we believe that aliens exist, which I do, I don't doubt whatsoever that they exist somewhere, but somewhere is super big and time is super long. I mean, it's entirely possible that, like countless trillions of civilizations developed and then died off 4 billion years ago. And everything is just so big and the timeline is so long that it's not just that alien life has to exist, it has to be close and it has to be at the same time as you. And so presumably it is based on what we're seeing here. So then they come and they like hover over a cornfield. They crash a lot, by the way. Apparently they're just crashing everywhere. They're killing some humans, but only I guess a few isolated ones. Like, what are they doing here? They seem pretty disinterested. And we only care insofar as we can take their technology and build something out of it. But is there anything that we've built in the last 50 years that is such a crazy leap forward that it had to have come from a UFO? And in the last few decades, we've barely even done any space travel ourselves. So where are the advantages coming from all this equipment that we've recovered? We barely still have the space station. We're relying on billionaires, I guess, to maybe go kind of in the atmosphere and then back down. Why aren't we halfway to Pluto at this point?
Yeah, well, so let me tackle all of that. So first of all, look, these different witnesses say that Grush is unassailable, but you read some of those comments and I think slightly assailable, right? Without knowing anything else, but the shootouts between the aliens and the humans seems very unlikely. So, and remember, he hasn't personally seen any of this. So that's the part where I go, and then in a different interview, he talked about how they had also recovered the dead bodies of the pilots of the alien aircraft. Again, if you haven't seen it, how do you know it? Maybe you saw the documents. So trust me, just don't take this at face value like, oh, it's over, right? Yeah, I think he's definitely telling the truth. This is definitely the case. It's just, we're talking about odds and likelihood, etc. And we say no one's leaked, and that's surprising except for the fact that he just leaked, and they did have hearings before, etc. So there's plenty of information on both sides, and I'm gonna clarify this even though it's hilarious. None of the videos and pictures we showed you are real, okay? Because in this day and age, you never know. And I did say there is real video, and there is, but those weren't it, okay? And so, okay.
It's pretty high def.
Why do I think aliens wouldn't attack us? Because we evolved in a very specific way here on Earth. Evolution is real, right? And the kind of apes we are territorial. So like our cousins, the chimpanzees, who we share 99% of our DNA with, when they get to a part of the woods that they would like to take control over, they take control over it, and they're very territorial about it. And if even other chimpanzees get into the area, they will attack and they will protect the resources that they have. That's the kind of being we are as well. We're very territorial. So we assume when we project that the alien life forms that we have no literally earthly idea about or non-earthly idea about, we're like, oh, they're gonna attack us. No, that is very unlikely that they would have evolved in the same way that we did. We don't even know if they're carbon-based. You think they're gonna attack us like a bunch of monkeys? Like, no, we're the apes, not them. Okay, so like that, and then there's some the conspiracy theorists are like, they're coming here because they need to harvest us. They didn't evolve on this planet. There's a near 0% chance that they could consume us. They would have consumed the things that they evolved consuming on their planet for whatever they consume for energy. We don't know that it's even other life forms, right? The idea that they could come on a planet they didn't evolve on and think that the animals there would be yummy. To say that is unlikely is it just doesn't do it justice. Very, very, very unlikely, okay? So don't panic about aliens and UFOs, etc. But it is super interesting. And I'm gonna add one more thing to what Ramesh said, which is, and it relates to what John was talking about at the end. Don't worry, John, we're gonna look at everything and discover everything. The minute we find very, very valuable minerals on other like asteroids, meteors, planets, etc. In which case Elon and Bezos and the others are gonna do a mad rush there. The US government's gonna say, whoever gets there first owns it, okay? And that's usually what we do in America. And then we'll start to own space and planets and it'll be a wonderful mess.
Yeah.
I'll say one quick thing here, which is that I think when we talk about space or even aliens or other forms of life, it's partly allegorical. It's partly like how we may want to think of ourselves and what we are and who we are. And I liked that you mentioned Star Trek earlier, John, because that's one vision of what life could look like with our species in relation to other species, or more generally the cosmos. More federation-based, more dialogue-based, more communion-based. Just like we could also be, we're pretty close in our DNA to bonobos who resolve their disputes through sexuality rather than violence, like the chimpanzees. So I think just as we look at stories like this, we have an opportunity to cast a type of mirror back on ourselves and make decisions about how we want to be and who we want to be as a species more largely. And I think all of this is very relevant given the climactic challenges and the whole discussion of the Anthropocene and all of that.
Yeah, and Ramesh is right. The bonobos are also 99% of our DNA. Slightly variation, obviously, somewhere between the chimpanzees and the bonobos, and they do resolve things through sex. That might explain the probes that people have talked about in the abduction stories.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. Okay, yes, I'm not about the bonobos, but about the probes.
No, that's true. We looked into it. I'm gonna end this with two of my fears. One that I just developed thanks to Ramesh, actually. Ramesh, please don't say anything more factual about the bonobos because the Republicans are gonna try to boycott them or something if they find out. They're woke monkeys with their sexuality. But anyway, my other fear is, so we were talking about Elon Musk and Bezos and all that, and the reason they become so notable in space travel is it's very expensive. So only the very expensive can afford to engage in it, and only like the richest jerks would want to individually do it because they have something to prove and everything. So what if aliens are like us in that way too? What if the only aliens that travel here are like rich alien a-holes? Like alien Bezos is the only one, and it's like he finally comes out of the ship and he's just a jerk and he's cringy. He uses the same crying emoji every time.
If I was the president, I'd say no vacancy. No vacancy, please go back home.
He flatly stated that he will give all of his money to his for-profit space company, which is called Blue Origin. He being Jeff Bezos. So that says everything we need to know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I think the aliens are just waiting for Trump to win again, so they could finally land and go, take us to your leader. This is gonna be easy, way easier than we expected.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.